right now, and we will start the roundtable with Luke and Dr. Jess and Cody. All right, so I wanted to add one more thing in terms of optimizing your bread formulas is really take a look at your flour specifications and your COAs to make sure that they are consistent before, again, Dr. Jess and Cody said, look at all these other things before you add gluten, right? So make sure that your COAs are in spec and everything are within the parameters before you start changing things. Okay, so let's answer the first question.
Thank you for the question. That's a good question. The reason is that they have different rate of reaction. So usually the reducing agent like L-cysteine or inactive yeast will react during the mechanical work or the mixing of the dough and will relax the dough and make it extensible. But the oxidizing agent in general are either fast acting or intermediate speed or very slow like potassium bromate, and they will react later in the process and rebind the disulfide bonds and create the gas retention you're looking for. So although they have opposite effects, they don't have the same rate of reaction. So that's why you can use them together. As a matter of fact, no, these are all dough conditioning. The shelf life extension we're talking about is basically enzymatic shelf life extension using, different maltogenic amylase or amylases. The part of the for the mold inhibition, we didn't cover in that presentation. We do have, there are many products on the market. The one that has been there for a long time is calcium propionate, which is used in bread, is an organic acid that is used to prevent mold or slow down mold growth. But we now, with Clean Label, we've got fermented wheat products that we're developing right now. We're going to launch in a short period of time. And you can find these fermented wheat on the market. Of course, there is not as cost effective as calcium propionate, but they're at least considered as Clean Label.
So basically, in summary, I don't think there is an effect on the mold inhibition from the dough conditioners. Neither, I don't believe there is a synergistic effect either. I think they work very, very separately.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if it was really covered in the presentation, maybe partly. One thing that some dough conditioners are enzyme-based dough conditioners, and some enzymes are capable of producing molecules comparable to DADM or SSL from the natural lipids or fat of the flour. Although, however, this fat level is limited in flour, usually 2% fat in flour, wheat flour. And some of these fat can only produce a limited amount of a molecule similar to DADM naturally. So when the emulsifier requirement is higher for, let's say, whole grain, whole wheat, high fiber bread, where usually you need more emulsifier, then you would have to add some substrate, extra substrate for the enzyme, and that substrate would be lecithin. And it could be soy lecithin, it could be sunflower lecithin, canola lecithin. The enzyme is capable of modifying the lecithin into lysolecithin, which can do a similar work as datum or SSL. Well, all the ingredients that, depending on what improvement you like in crumb, if you're talking about crumb structure, all the ingredients that Jacinthe mentioned are good to improve the crumb structure. Usually bakers, they like to have a very fine crumb structure, very tight structure. So indicating the gas retention is good. So if that's the reason why, or if you want softness for the crumb, then you'll have to use the softening enzymes that Jacinthe was talking about. The softening enzyme is specifically modifying the starch in such a way that the softness of the bread or the hardness is decreased, and you get a much longer shelf life on the bread.
I would also like to add to that, ignore the fact of processing conditions. And dough temperature is a huge factor for the quality of the crumb. So if you're operating at really high dough temperatures, you're really using less water absorption, spitting out the dough at the dough throw at, above 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Your mixing operating area doesn't have air conditioning. All those things do matter in terms of your crumb structure. And that this is why you see a lot of variation during temperature changes, especially in the summer, And when when dough temperature gets that high, you're gonna have a really unstable dough. So my suggestion also is take a look at your processing conditions, make sure that your mixing operations is targeting appropriate final dough mixing temperatures. And with that comes a lot of stability within the dough and a better crumb structure as well.
Yes, that was in the Jacinthe's presentation. Specifically, we're talking about phospholipases. Phospholipases are capable of modifying the natural fat of the flour into molecules that are comparable to datum or SSL. The only difference is that these molecules are considered and clean label coming from natural lipid of the fat instead of a chemical emulsifier added to the dough like SSL or datum. So yes, enzyme can be used to replace emulsifiers. For stability, in general, in the industry, a temperature of 80 degrees Fahrenheit, 76 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit is the dough temperature final dough temperature you're looking for in most process. Depending, of course, it might be a little bit colder during the hot summertime. You might want a slightly colder dough, but in general, overall temperature is 77 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. There's different things, and I'm thinking about dull color, I'm thinking maybe you proof the dough and the dough is too dry out of the proof box before you bake it, or either you could use steam in the oven to create a nice shiny cross. Cross coloration also depends on oven temperature. Of course, formation of the cross is a question of time and water evaporation at the surface of the dough. and you get a more thinner, thicker crust depending on the baking time and temperature. You might have some more coloration if you add some sugar to the dough. Or there are many ways that the crust can be improved. It all depends on which process you're using, and so I gave you some indication of what you could do to improve the crust. As I understand, it's a dull crust, so it could be any type of situation where you get a dull crust. Some correction you can make.
Right, and I like to add to that as well, because dull crust to me means that you don't have a process within the oven that really seals up the porous nature of the crust. So that's why your crust doesn't look shiny and smooth, right? So steaming is the number one issue that you should look at, whether you should steam longer or shorter. The longer you steam, the more shiny your crust is going to be. And unfortunately, that would also increase your baking time. So if that doesn't work, there's always egg wash. Egg wash is going to shine up your crust really well, and it's very effective. So those are two things that you should look at.
Well, I don't know the details of the content of your dough, but it seems like you're probably missing a dough conditioner, a complete dough conditioner, to help with the dough machinability and the bread volume, and gas retention, if you wish. So I would say that probably you need some kind of a complete dough conditioner in your dough, or change the process. If you get time and you can adjust the process, you might get some improvement by doing a longer fermentation, slower fermentation.
And I think in terms of bread formula optimization, when we talk about commercializing new products, even though a change in the formula from, say, a 3-ounce bun to a 4-ounce bun, it's just a dough weights, right? Sometimes people don't understand that just a change in that affects processing speed. Anything that's different with processing speed affects the dough. So sometimes with the same formula, you're going to see weakening of the dough. So adjustments to the dough conditioner and optimization on the formula based on the process is really important. So you not only, and I've seen this a couple of times, when you go down dough weights from 4 ounce to maybe 3.5, even though it's just a small bit, there is an increase in speed. With increase in speed means there's an increase in output. Increase in output means that you're weakening the dough. So whenever you reduce dough weights at the dough divider cutter, you have to look at your dough conditioning system to make sure that your dough is strong enough to handle all that stress. So definitely take a look at your processing, and don't think that you have to add gluten first before looking at the dough conditioning system.
No, organic means that all the ingredients are coming. Let's say, in my definition, organic in general, my understanding, if something is organic, a product is organic, it can be clean label, but a clean label product not necessarily be organic. So it all depends on the source of the ingredients, and in the organic certification, these are very tight and very severe. depending on the organism that give the certification. So that would be my answer to that.
Suggestion is to look at your dosage rate. If your dosage rate is below 2% of total formulation, then yes, you can use a clean label system in organic products that's going to still be able to give you the ability to certify it as organic. So really talk to your product developers for your enzyme solution and ask them to, hey, please guys, can you like really concentrate your mix and make it down to less than 2% of the total formulation? Because that's really possible.
Yeah.
You
Also,
know,
then also maybe to add on this is all ingredient must be non-GMO. So even though you're below that, 2%, 5% usage level, it cannot come from GM organism.
Yeah,
that's true. Look, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I was saying that I mentioned that there are many different certifications for organic, and some of them are more or less severe, and some really call for non-GMO enzymes, and so you got to know which certification you have or you want, and from there decide Lin's proposal for a solution with a dough conditioner at a lower level. Permitted level, or if you need a special dough conditioner with organic enzyme, that would be my suggestion. It seems like it's recurrent fault that I see in the bakeries. If I had to ask the question, do you add any gluten? Usually white pan bread don't ask for gluten, but very, very often if you add gluten to the dough, it makes the dough much more elastic, and the dough is not easy to machine or go through the sheeter or molder, and you get some air pocket, air inclusion, because the dough is so elastic. And you get large holes in the crumb. That's usually where you see that. Or you might have undermix the dough. That would be the same thing. The gluten is not extensible enough, and you've got inclusion of air pockets in during the dough making or the dough sheeting, and so I would suggest, if you think you need to keep the gluten mix furthermore, you make the dough much more extensible. Or if it's white pan bread, then I would suggest that you think about a dough conditioner that is really formulated to give you all the advantages that you probably get a good dough machinability better than adding any gluten.
I would like to add to that as well, because whenever someone sees holes in their dough, they immediately think that the dough is weak. And to Luke's point too, it's just sometimes it's not, And again, I would like to challenge your process and your parameters in terms of dough temperature. I see a lot of holes, and I see a lot of molder holes, especially in high temperature doughs. And that's just a huge correlation. We really don't know what causes that. But to add more gluten to solve that problem, that's not the solution. The solution is really to lower your dough temperature and then look at the dough conditioning system first before you add any kind of gluten. Okay, so the first time you see holes in your dough, I would prompt you to go look at your dough and make sure that you have the right kind of flour, that you're receiving the right kind of flour with your COAs, that your stabilities are at where it is, your MTIs are at where it is. And really try to do everything organically before you throw in the gluten. Gluten is not going to solve holes in your dough. So I hope that helps.
Usually we have a advice a range of usage level for our dough conditioner, where we usually see more volume with increased level. So we increase the volume progressively by increasing the until you until you get to the maximum level suggested or advised. You can so usually within the maximum level of advised dough usage level, you get the maximum volume on your bread. So therefore, if you don't get that volume that you're looking for when you get I use higher level of or double the level of a dough conditioner, then you might think at that point to maybe add some gluten. But yeah, so I don't know, Lynn, do you have any idea on this?
Yeah, I think the quick answer is yes, you will see an increase in volume. But again, you know, back to flour quality, look at your flour COAs. Are you optimizing your water absorption? You know, sometimes it's as simple as increasing water absorption to really get a really good volume. So a quick answer is yes. Longer answer would be, have you looked at other things like water absorption and dough processing parameters?
That's a question. Based on my knowledge, the formation of the crust is, again, you know, evaporation of moisture at the surface of the dough, and it's kind of controlled by the heat of the oven, the baking time. So of course, some product like datum is known to apparently help to get a crustier loaf, like on the opposite, SSL is a starch binding complexing agent, which gives some kind of initial crumb softening and crust softening. So I think crust formation and crust, to get a nice crust, it's basically a question of baking it appropriately. You know, you need to bake the right time and the right temperature to get the crust you're looking for. It's there are some ingredients that can influence that, but either these ingredients will not control everything like baking will do. So that would be my idea on this one.
I agree that baking has a lot to do with it.
Okay, that's a good question. Hopefully people are overdosing by mistake, or, you know, although we formulate our dough conditioner to have some kind of forgiveness if overdosed. But if you really overdose our dough conditioner, there are many things that can happen. One of the main thing is you get the opposite effect. You get at advised levels, so you can get a lower volume, tighter structure, not good dough machinability, and so it's a waste of money. So usually you should refer to the advice level of the technical data sheet and keep within these levels.
Also, take a look at your flour COAs. Again, You know, sometimes you get a slight increase in protein quality and quantity, and that really shoots up the strength of the dough, you know. And when you add the usual level of dough conditioners and oxidizers, and you don't lower it, you're going to see some of those overdosing effects. And some of those things look like whiteness on the crust. It looks like dry skin. It looks like, you know, slope crowns when you do the Jimmy cutters on one side, you know, it smiles, you know. So overdosing will give you a lot of those kind of white problems, quality problems on top of your doughs. So that is one problem you have to look at. Keep an eye on water absorption, dough temperatures. With oxidizers, dough temperatures are very, very important in terms of not over oxidizing or drying out the dough. So if your dough temperatures are lower, like what looks say below 80, you know, it's easier to control and not over oxidize. If you just put a little bit more at a lower dough temperature, you're not going to see the effect. But you put a little bit more on a 90-degree dough, you're going to see a huge effect. So the effect of overdosing can be really exacerbated by the dough temperatures. So hopefully you don't get the effect. And like Luke say, please follow the instructions that, you know, the technicians come out to help you with. And I really hope that through all this, you know, everyone here learns that, you know, it's sometimes not the easiest thing to be a baker by yourself and to really, you know, cut the dough conditioner, increase water absorption, decrease dough temperature. It's a lot to deal with, you know. So I believe the team at Lallemand would be able to help you with the technicians on the floor. And if you need anything else, please reach out to them. I think we've put more information on dough strengthening solutions from Lallemand. We have Shamla's email on there. So please reach out to Shamla if you need more information on the presentation today on the dough conditioning optimization systems that Dr. Côté talked about. So we have come to the end of our presentation. I really appreciate Luke and Dr. Jacinthe Côté for coming on and solving all these dough problems. So thank you everyone for coming, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.